Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode. Today we will be with Crystal instead of Apple or Ava or any of my other wolves, as I want to tell you her story. Crystal is the matriarch of most of the wolves that I play, if not all of them that you've seen so far. She originally didn't have a backstory. She was one of my wolves that I played in 2.7. And then when Anniversary Edition came out, I decided to recreate her and play her. So I played her a lot in multiplayer, I played her a lot in single player, and I played her all the way to Elder Wolf. So originally she didn't have a backstory, but when she reached age 7 and I had her 5th litter, I spent like a year not growing her up or having any pups with her, except for one litter, which I don't even play any of the wolves in that litter, just because I only had those puppies because I really wanted one of my wolves to have puppies again. I hadn't played for like months, hadn't had puppies for months, and I just really wanted to have puppies. So I didn't want Crystal to have a chance of dying, so I decided to keep her at age 7. And so that's where one of the litters that I will never be playing comes from, because I wanted to have puppies with one of my wolves, but I didn't want her to die as an older yet. During that span of not aging her up to age 8, I played her a lot in multiplayer, and a lot of the time I spent in Lost River in multiplayer, the old map, not the new one, and that kind of just... She knew that map off by heart at that point. She knew every nook and cranny. And so I wanted to make it part of her backstory. So yeah, she didn't have a backstory until I reached age 7 with her. At that point I started thinking about backstories, and then I went into a multiplayer game where there was a lookalike who really looked like her, except she had yellow eyes and no bent ear, but she did have a radio collar, just like Crystal, and I can't remember the wolf's name. And I don't know if it has to do with how that person was role-playing or anything like that, but I didn't like it. I didn't like that she had run into a lookalike, and that wolf was like, oh, our wolves must be siblings, and I went along with it at first, and after playing the game with that person and leaving the game logging off, I was like, I don't actually want Crystal to ever have a chance of running into a distant family member. So that's why what I'm about to tell you about her backstory that I made seems a little tragic and maybe a little dark, but that's kind of where it came from, my distaste towards running into a lookalike and sibling of Crystal's. Alright, so I'm gonna quickly show you Crystal. This is her. She has this coat. And she has like grey black eyes. She has this... I wish I could click the house, but I unfortunately cannot because she's dead. And then she has a bent left ear and a radio collar, and her body size was the smallest setting I could make it, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And she had neutral stats. So her bio, it's not the longest bio I've ever written, but her pack timeline is much longer, and the series of events that happened in her past makes up for it. Okay, so she was born in year 0. The pack timeline is based off of her. That's why the timeline is not based... Timeline is based off of her, she's not based on the timeline. That's why it's year 0. She was born in year 0, a grey female wolf. She is bold and confident but will be cautious in some situations. She is very energetic, social and loyal, but takes some situations she'll be serious. Loves foxes. She is a really good hunter and a good tracker. And loves water. So some of the pack RP that I did with her was she was either the alpha, the beta, or a third in command. I forgot what that one's called. But she was the wise wolf of the pack and the lead hunter in most situations, which is why her bio is kind of set up like that. Obviously there was a little bit more of a bio when I was playing in multiplayer, but I got rid of that after she reached elderhood, and I was kind of like, I can't take her into multiplayer anymore. So one summer day, Crystal, age 8, lay down to rest, peacefully passed away. Avalanche continued raising the pups, and 2 of them survived to adulthood. They will be in the family tree. Personality, she was in the middle, but towards the end it came down a bit just because of her age. And in the beginning she was quite a loner, but slowly she became more social. But she's always been very energetic. So that's Crystal, a little bit of information about her. Now I'll be talking about her parents. I did go back and recreate her parents to how I imagined they would look. So I'll tell you about her parents individually, and I'll put a picture of them on screen of how I imagine they look. Okay, so Crystal's father is Ford. I cannot remember why I chose that name, but his name is Ford. He is a full wolf. He's a full wolf, unlike Crystal's mom, Pearl, who is half German Shepherd. I chose German Shepherd because the coat obviously looked a lot like it, and I know a lot of people go with Husky, and I just didn't want to be like everyone else and choose another Husky cross wolf. So I went German Shepherd cross wolf. So a little bit about Pearl's parents. I haven't specifically chosen which parent was the German Shepherd, but basically her parents were both in Lost River. Her one parent, being a full wolf, was from a very, very old pack that is not in the game, and her other parent being a German Shepherd that got free of being a pet when all the humans in Lost River disappeared. And then obviously those two met, had puppies, and Pearl was one of them. Pearl, I don't know why I chose her name either. I do know that it was going to be Crystal's name or one of Crystal's pups' names if I found the right wolf, but I never did, so I ended up giving it to her mom when I made her backstory. So Ford and Pearl. Pearl is 1 year older than Ford. I'm going to say that now because that does come into the timeline, which I will be reading in a second. I have written this all down. So I'm basically going to be reading it and explaining things as I go. I also will be showing puppies and wolves and stuff, and obviously you guys can recognize some wolves here in the background. Yeah. So Ford and Pearl had fertility issues. Fertility issues because I didn't want Crystal to have any chance of running into a close relative. It had to be very far up in one of her wolf grandparents' trees. I didn't want any chance of that happening, so that's why I chose fertility issues, so that Crystal would know her siblings. She knows she does not have any other siblings, except for a wolf that I will talk about in a bit. Okay, so as we go through, I will put pictures up on the screen, and I will also put the year that I'm talking about up on the screen so that you guys kind of know where we are in the timeline. Now, this timeline goes all the way up to year 11, which is 3 years after Crystal has passed away. The rest of that timeline will probably be mentioned in either Minnie's pack video or Leo's pack video, if not both, because those will be coming after this one. Alright, so year 0, Ford is now age 6 and Pearl is age 7. They have their first litter of twin girls after never having any living offspring in their first 4 litters, or failing to have any offspring in their first 4 litters. They named their twin girls Crystal and Winter. So that's year 0, pretty short, sweet and simple. Where do I imagine this pack being based would be just north of town in Lost River in the old map. I do not know the new map, but hopefully in the near future I'll be able to know the new map, as in get the new map. Okay, so just before I carry on with year 1 does mention blood and a tragic event. If you are not comfortable with that, you can skip to the time that I put on the screen. Yeah, so year 1. Ford and Pearl fail to have another litter this year, and so continue on with their daughters. Ford is now age 7 and Pearl is age 8. Crystal and Winter, now yearlings with their parents, are trying to bring down a young female moose when Winter takes an immense blow to her head from one of the moose's back hooves and falls to the ground, unable to get up, only able to whine as blood flows out of a huge gash in her head. That is... yeah, I'm pausing there because that's about the worst, the darkest or saddest or most gruesome tragic event that I have probably ever written. Yeah, so a little bit sad, not a little bit sad, it is sad. The whole pack ends the hunt and tries to help Winter out, but eventually she ends up passing away a couple hours later, leaving her family mourning for her. Soon after Winter's passing, Pearl, age 8, passes away peacefully, leaving Ford and Crystal heartbroken and only having each other to rely on. Okay, so this is the time that I told everyone who was not comfortable with blood to skip to. So for the ones who skipped to this time, Winter passes away from a hunting accident and Pearl passes away peacefully from old age. So it's just Crystal and her father Ford left. Okay, year 2 is definitely not as gruesome. Yeah, that's about the worst there is in this series of events for Crystal. Okay, so year 2, Ford, now age 8, starts trying to get Crystal, age 2, to leave him and find herself a mate. Crystal is hesitant and refuses to leave her father, who is now battling to get food for himself due to old age. Eventually he decides to be aggressive towards her, not because he doesn't love her, but because he doesn't want her to spend the rest of his life making her provide for him. He knows she needs to find her own way before she is really left alone. Eventually Crystal leaves, but doesn't go far and keeps an eye on her father, even leaving food in the area for him. About a month later she finds that he has peacefully passed away. She mourns him and remembers what he said about her finding her own way, and maybe even having a family of her own. So she leaves her parents' territory, although there isn't much left of it, and travels until one day she meets a male dispersal with a beautiful brown coat and sky blue eyes, who is 2 years older than her. They spend time together and eventually become mates, after which they finally tell each other their names, and his is Brownie. They travel more together and set up their own territory just before the year ends and name their pack the Gem Pack. So that's year 2, quite a lot happened. Crystal was alone, and then she wasn't alone, and this leads us to year 3, which is much shorter than the paragraph I just read. Okay, year 3, Gem Pack. Crystal gives birth to her first litter of 6 pups, 3 boys and 3 girls. I'm gonna pause right there and go to the family tree. Brownie is Crystal's first mate. 3 boys and 3 girls they have in their first litter: Lake Opal Cocoa, Mudport Chocolate, and Cream. The year goes by smoothly apart from Cream getting killed by a bear. Okay, so that's year 3. Out of this litter, Lake was my chosen heir, but I took him to... Let me quickly go to him. So I took Lake to Amethyst Mountain and he successfully hunted his first elk, but then I went to hunt a second elk and he had about 60% of his health left when I got trapped between a bull elk and 2 female elk with him. And he was basically beaten to death by those 3 elk. Not a great story, so that's why there is no heir from Crystal's first litter, because that heir died before he had a chance to create his own pack. So that was year 3, Crystal's first litter. I'm not going to show all the other pups because they would... Right now in the timeline we are in year 13, and so they would be long gone as well. They would be 10 years old, and that's nearly impossible for a wild wolf. Okay, so moving on to year 4. Crystal has her paws full as she has her second litter with Brownie. This time 7 pups, 4 boys and 3 girls. Jazz, Minnie, Potato, Pecan, Acorn, Moonstone and Almond. On top of that she also has 5 yearlings to train, and for a short time she has to do this alone, as Brownie is killed by a bear. Later in the year she meets a pale grey male with blue eyes from Junction Butte, and they soon become mates and again reveal names. His is Leon and he is a year younger than her. So here is Leon. His eyes looked a lot more blue, not as grey when I did this, so that's not entirely accurate anymore. The pups are happy to meet their new dad, but when Leon becomes lazy, doesn't feed the pups, rarely patrols, and isn't helpful during hunts, tensions start rising and the yearlings and pups aren't happy, and Crystal is torn between what she should do. Yeah, so Leon was probably the worst mate I ever had. The fact that Brownie died to a bear does impact Minnie quite a bit. However, we didn't lose any pups. I'm not going to show all her siblings because she was the chosen heir and they would also technically be dead right now. So here is Minnie. I'm doing a whole different video for her and Leo because they have their own stories and I don't have time in one video to do 3 wolf stories. So there she is. I can't to her house, and she has a big scar on her face from a bear, which I will talk about in her video because she has an interesting story. So things should now start making sense. So yeah, that was her second litter. Next litter, year 5, is a familiar name that you should know. Okay. Year 5. Gem Pack. Crystal and Leon have their first litter together, but Crystal's third litter of 3 pups. 1 boy and 2 girls, with last year's pups of 7 being yearlings. Last year's yearlings, being 2 years old now, have started to leave the pack as they are now mature in dispersals. Crystal names the triplets Leo, Lily and Lila. Leon dies 2 months after the pups are born. That's a made-up number. I just took a guess. When he decided to sleep alone at one of the carcasses Crystal had hunted and is attacked by a bear and killed in the confusion. Crystal raises the triplets and the 7 yearlings well until about a month after Leon's passing she comes across another male with a pelt as dark as the night sky and green eyes. He starts hunting for her and helping out with the yearlings without Crystal asking, and they end up becoming mates and exchanging names. His name is Avalanche, and he is 3 years younger than her. Avalanche was the best mate Crystal probably ever had. So Leo was the only boy of his litter, with Lily and Lila being his siblings. Leo has his own story, so I will show his story in a whole new video for him, specifically dedicated to him. But for now, that's where you know he has come from and what happened when, and how he came about, and who his parents were, and how his parents came together, and all of that. Okay, so now we're on year 6. Gem Pack. Crystal and Avalanche have their first litter together of 6 pups. 5 girls and 1 boy. Ava, Autumn, Snow, Charlotte, Flake, and Christina. Christina is killed by an eagle at a few months old while the rest of her siblings grow strong. I did actually mention Christina in one of Ava's episodes, so you can go and watch that. I forgot which video that was. It was when we were moving the pups. Yeah, I did mention her, and she has affected, her death did affect Ava. Okay, so Avalanche trains the yearlings, Leo, Lily, and Lila how to hunt, patrol territory, etc. While Jazz, Minnie, Potato, Pecan, Acorn, Moonstone, and Almond slowly start leaving the pack as dispersals. Minnie being the most grateful to leave her mother with a mate much better than Leon. That's a big blow to Leon's reputation, just because I do not see Minnie being the type of wolf to tolerate such a bad mate for her mom. She was very close to her mom, and I don't see her liking Leon one bit. So Ava was the chosen heir of this litter. You guys can now see Ava as a puppy. And here are her siblings, who I will just show as puppies. I will not be going into them as adults. So Ava and Christina look very similar, which is why they were probably quite close. So here's Ava. I play her quite a lot. She has her own series. You are more than welcome to go watch that series. In fact, some interesting things just happened. She's got nothing wrong with her ears, and she's an average sized wolf with +1 in stamina and -1 in health. That's about Ava, but since I'm not gonna really make a video for Ava, I will read her bio. I won't be making a video dedicated to her, because she already has her own series. Okay, so offspring of Crystal and Avalanche, born in year 6. She's an enthusiastic wolf who can be quite easygoing. She's sacrificial, steady, balanced, determined, gentle, independent. A heart desire for her is peace and harmony, so she avoids confrontation and dislikes the use of force, although she will not hesitate to protect those she cares for. Now, she dislikes the use of force. That doesn't mean that she won't discipline her children, which is why she picks them up and brings them back to the den individually. Not too picky on prey, but unlike other wolves, she will go for mule deer, and she loves water. She goes for mule deer because she's got a + in stamina and no minus in speed. Okay, so that's Ava. Next is this one, and you should recognize this name here. Okay, year 7, gem pack. This is also, year 7 is also the year where Minnie sets up her territory and has her first litter of pups. Rika is the same age as Minnie's first litter of pups, who I will, just moving on. Year 7, gem pack. Another litter is born to Crystal and Avalanche, 1 boy and 2 girls, Finn, Melania, and Rika, with Leo, Lily, and Lila leaving the pack as dispersals. Again, Avalanche is an amazing mate and father and takes up the role of teaching last year's litter, who are now yearlings, Ava, Autumn, Snow, Charlotte, and Flake, how to be adult wolves, all while patrolling and hunting with his mate. Avalanche, I love you so much. Okay, Finn, Melania, and Rika. Finn as an adult looks exactly like Rika, except he has a scar on his face. And Melania looks very different from both of them. But I won't be showing them because Rika was my chosen heir. This is Rika. She also has her own series, and I will be playing her again soon, once Ava and Apple's stories are finished, because I plan something with her and Helena. So this is beautiful girl Rika. Her howls, except we shouldn't be showing her howls. And she is actually my smallest heir. She has -2 strength, +1 stamina, +1 health, and neutral stats and speed. Again, I will not be dedicating a video to Rika because she has her own series, so I will be reading her bio, and I have not changed this. It has kind of changed, but not by a lot, in her first series. Offspring of Crystal and Avalanche, born in year 7, Rika is a reasonable, a little childish, balanced, powerful, gentle, can be a bit sensitive, passionate, attentive, patient, energetic, kind-natured, somewhat a perfectionist. She's a wolf who is unselfish, I should probably say selfless, and only wants to help and care for those she loves. In her first litter, when the biggest pup was 12.3 pounds, yes, I did keep track of everything pretty much, and I still do. She went to a bison carcass she had found earlier and encountered Prospect Peep, that's why it's PP, 1F and 2F by the carcass in her territory with her mate Sen. Sus. Not only that, but Canyon had also been quite lazy. Both of these factors combined caused Rika to have difficulty trusting him and caused friction between the two. So that's Rika. She does have an interesting story going, and I imagine as she gets older, which she can't really get much older, she's got probably 3 more years left. In the next 3 years, I imagine quite a lot's going to change, and I see her growing quite a lot as a wolf. By the way, where the wolf's names come from, pack names come from, Rika's name means power of the wolf or power of the house or something like that, and Canyon's name means path. So Path of Power pack kind of made sense for me. And Ava's pack, Ava's name means bird, so I literally just, and she's a black bird, so I chose magpie. Mini pack was just mini pack, and Leo's pack was white dove pack, because he had a white coat and his mate's name is Dove. So that's where the names came from. But yeah, back to Crystal. So this is the litter that I didn't age Crystal up on, and I have not grown up any of these wolves, and I will not be growing up any of those wolves because I won't be playing them because they technically don't exist. This was probably the worst litter I have ever played. When I say worst, I don't mean it in a bad way. I just had so much difficulty. And by the way, I played Leo all the way to elderhood before I aged Crystal up to an elder wolf. So he died before his mom, but technically in the timeline, she died before him. So year 8, Gem Pack. Crystal had her final litter with avalanche of 6 pups, 3 girls and 3 boys. Michelle, Valerie, Alpis, Oscar, Helene, and Cosmos. The yearlings Finn, Melania, and Rika were trained well and soon started babysitting, hunting, patrolling with and without their parents. Finn was a bit more of a loner than his sisters and often went out patrolling alone instead of babysitting, unlike his sisters, who didn't really mind babysitting instead of patrolling. Crystal lost 4 of her pups in this litter, Michelle to a bear. Michelle's case of losing her to a bear was similar to how I lost Blueberry and Apple's litter. I came back with no wakefulness with Crystal and couldn't rescue Michelle from the bear as I had no stamina. So Michelle died to a bear, Elpis died to disease, and Valerie died to disease as well. Cosmos passed away after his mother's death, presumably as a yearling in training. On Crystal's last day, she had a final hunt with her mate and the yearlings, and brought the ox calf for the pups and marked territory, revisiting death places and other places of importance along the way. She returned to the pups and decided it was time to tell her family her past, as she had never done with any of her other litters or mates, despite them asking. That's because she didn't have a backstory until age 7, and that was after I played her 5th litter. She told them how she lost her family and how she's the only survivor of that pack, and how her mother had some dog blood in her which influences how big she is and why she's smaller than an average female wolf. She also told them about her first litter where they were facing starvation when a fox helped her find a carcass. That's why in her bio it states she loves foxes. At the end of the day, she said her goodbyes to her family and headed to the northern part of her territory where there was a little pond/lake. She looked around this lake and saw how it had changed, and there were no longer many elk here like there used to be. She got up onto the rocks by the lake where the stream began and laid down to rest. Year 8 was also the year that Minnie had her second litter and Leo had his first litter. So that is Crystal's story. I'm going to show you Helene and Oscar because Oscar joins Helene's, I'm gonna have to keep correcting myself, Helene's pack. So right now when I'm playing Helene, Oscar is there with her and Ember, raising the pups and yearlings. Here is Helene. She also has her own series, which you can go and watch. I won't get into too much about her. She's a really strong wolf with a +1 in stamina, a -2 in speed, and a -1 in health, which is why she prefers elk. She is quite the bio, which I will read because I will not be dedicating a video to her. So she is offspring of Crystal and Avalanche, born in year 8. Her name means shining light. She was born in a litter of 6, including her, and was one of 3 girls. Both her sisters died, Elpis to disease and Michelle to a bear, while 2 of her brothers also died, Valerie to disease and Cosmos in a failed hunt as a yearling. That is a made-up story. I don't know actually how Cosmos died, as he died after Crystal. Her mother also passed away the same year she was born at age 8, but on her final day she hunted with Helene's older siblings and father. She marked territory and brought back an elk calf as the last meal they'd ever get from her. Her mother Crystal told her and her siblings about their grandparents and aunt who died, as well as how a fox saved her and her first litter from starvation. After storytelling to them, she played with them and then said her goodbyes and left the rendezvous site, peacefully passing away as the lake north of the rendezvous site when Helene was 18.4 pounds. So Crystal got her pups very far before she laid down to rest, and she made sure everything was ready to go when she passed away, to make it easier on her family after her passing. That was just the type of wolf Crystal was. Helene is heroic, loving, neat, stable, disciplined, reliable, hard-working, thoughtful, a little mysterious due to her puphood, as her mom died when she was a pup. Independent, respectable, confident, alert, aware, watchful, selfless, and likes her alone time. She prefers being outdoors, doesn't like going into dens. Her heart's desire is to help and care for loved ones, and she treasures family and their values and traditions. And she's an iron wolf, so if she dies, she dies. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show Oscar. So here's Oscar. He is in and part of Helene's family. So when we're playing Helene, he is part of that pack. I will talk about his story. I'll do a little bit more of storytelling in a bit, but here is Oscar. He's a smaller than average male wolf, and he has a +1 in stamina but a -1 in strength. He and Helene are really, really close, and I do plan on adding him quite a bit into Helene's videos in the future and talking about him more. I'm just gonna pick a random one so I can just show Avalanche. Okay, so year 9 for the gem pack. Avalanche, age 6, never found himself a new mate, but carried on raising last year's pups, Helene and Oscar, now yearlings, and saying goodbye to his pups that were now 2 years old, Finn, Melania, and Rika. Obviously he was now a single dad, but he had 2 yearlings with him, and that was obviously pretty challenging for him, but he's an amazing dad. And remember, he's 3 years younger than Crystal, so he lives a lot longer. He lives up until year 12. Was what I've said for him, which means he was 9 years old when he died. So Minnie had her 3rd litter that year, Leo had his 2nd, and Ava had her 1st. Okay, then year 10, I'm gonna keep going until you guys know what happened to Avalanche, Oscar, and Helene. Avalanche, now age 7, leaves the territory with Helene and Oscar, now 2 years old, and joins Helene's pack later on. So on Amethyst Mountain, Avalanche plans to join Oscar's pack, so Helene splits from them at Amethyst Mountain, and Oscar just doesn't find the one for him. And so they eventually somehow manage to re-find Helene, I imagine more by accident than on purpose, and discover that she's got a mate and she's heading to Slough Creek to set up her territory and have her first litter of puppies. And obviously, she being so close with her dad and brother, invites them to join her pack, and well, doesn't really invite them, but says that they are welcome to join her pack. And obviously, Avalanche and Oscar do end up joining her pack. So that year, Minnie has her 4th litter, and something tragic happens there as well. Then the White Dove pack have their 3rd litter, so Leo has his 3rd litter, Ava has her 2nd, and Rika has her 1st. And then outside of that, some other things happen, which I will get to in a later date. Yeah, and then year 11, Helene has her 1st litter, with Oscar and Avalanche being in the pack. Year 12, she has her 2nd litter, which I actually recorded, and that's her 1st series, is her 2nd litter. Avalanche dies in year 12 from old age, and I imagine peacefully. So that is all I have for Crystal's story. If you have any questions, you can comment them below, and soon I will be doing Leo and Minnie's stories, so that pieces of this puzzle can now start being connected. There are other wolves that I have never mentioned, but in the future will come in as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Bye!